So with that being said, I want to kind of jump into, like I mentioned, the overall topic of today's video. And so what I'm talking about today is sort of 3 scientifically backed things that will guarantee you are successful. Now, I know that sounds like a big, what's a good way to put this? It sounds like it's too good to be true, that there's 3 things that are guaranteed to lead you to success. 1, it's not too good to be true. But I will say this, it's not easy. That's the thing. It's not easy. And before I get into the 3 steps, I want to just caveat this entire presentation by telling you this. Success is subjective. That's one big thing, and I talk about this with my clients a lot. Success is very subjective. People don't understand that. I think a lot of people, what they do is they allow society to define what success should be for them. When in reality, you have to define what success is for yourself. You need to sit down and really ask yourself, what does it mean for me to be successful? For some people, being successful is just being married and having kids. It's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. If you want that, then do it. There are some people who will be like, that's not success for me. I don't want to be married. I don't even want kids. That's not successful for me. If I had that life, I would be miserable, or I would be happy, or I would be satisfied. It doesn't matter. It's totally fine. Everyone's different. There's some people who say success for them is being like a millionaire. I've heard that a lot. People are like, oh, I want to be a millionaire. Okay, cool. Why do you want to be a millionaire? And then from that point, usually a lot of people, and I use that as an example because people say that a lot. I want to be a millionaire. I want to have like X amount of money. Why do you want to have that much money? What do you hope to accomplish? What do you hope to purchase with all that money? And they don't really know. And the reason why they don't know is because they're just regurgitating stuff they've heard other people say. They've been given a goal by society, and they're kind of just taking it upon themselves to think that that's the best possible goal to have, without really thinking about what that means for them and their lives, and like, you know, what daily activities they need to achieve that, if it's even going to make them like happy or fulfilled or all that stuff. So, like I said, I want to put that out there first. Success is subjective. You got to define success for yourself. But whatever you do, whatever you define success as for yourself, these 3 things I'm about to share with you are going to guarantee you get that thing, whatever it is. If you want to be a comic book artist, I bring that up first because I'm trying to be a comic book artist myself. It's like a hobby. I'm not trying to make money with it. It's just a hobby I do in my free time. So I'm not like pressed to really practice art that much or practice, you know, inking, all that stuff. If you don't know what that is, don't worry about it. But the 3 things I'm going to share with you, if your goal is to become a comic book artist, they work. If your goal is to become Mr. Olympia, they work. If your goal is to be, I don't know, a huge business owner, they work. Whatever it is, it works. And I'm going to share why in just a moment. So, what are the 3 things? I'm going to give all 3 of those things first, and then I'm going to go deeper into what those 3 things are. Now, I'm doing this video right now, and let me just check something, because I want to bring up something. The reason why I was saying I'm doing a cash giveaway is because a lot of times when I do these lives, people watch them after. They don't hop on the live and get the real value, which is being able to interact and ask questions in real time. Now, I'm going to be like completely transparent. There are no people in this live right now. I'm pretty much talking to myself, which is totally fine. I'm used to like kind of talking to myself and giving good value and having people like after the fact watch the recording. I bring this up because I'm giving away money in this live, and I was about to give away the first cash prize. But since no one's here to receive the cash prize, there will be no cash prize given. So it's kind of funny to me because I've done this before. I remember, it's kind of a side tangent. I have a newsletter where I write my own emails, and I kind of just give tips and update people and stuff. And I did a newsletter. I did 3 newsletter giveaways, and I was giving away like hundreds of dollars in the newsletter giveaways. And I think the very first one I did, like 7 people. In the email, I put like respond to this email with a certain word at the very bottom because I want to make sure you read the email. I put respond to the email with this word. And if you do, you will have a chance to win like $200 at random. Like I just take everyone who does it, I put them in like a jar, I pull out the name, and then I just tell you win. And then you can, usually I Venmo or Cash App people. 7 people. Now, again, transparency. My email list has about 500 or 600 people. 7 people responded to the email. Just like think about this for a second. Imagine someone says to you, "I'll give you $200 if you just say hi," and you don't do it. It's like you missed out on $200 easy for no effort, and you were competing against 6 other people. That doesn't make much sense. So I don't know. I just bring it up because it's kind of funny. No one else is on here, and I was literally going to give money away, and I was going to receive the first bit of money, which is perfectly fine for me because it's money I get to save. But it's very fascinating to me. So anyway, getting back into the video, the 3 things that sort of guarantee success, and this is scientifically backed, by the way. This is not me just making stuff up. Pretty much, just kind of to give you a background story. The reason why I found these things is because I was kind of doing research on a bunch of people, like a bunch of successful people, different public figures, different business owners, different athletes. And I was trying to figure out, like, what is that secret sauce to success? And I was trying to figure this out for myself as well. Like, what is that secret sauce to success? What is it that some people do that makes them successful? And first of all, when you look up a bunch of different people, you realize that, like I said, success is subjective. There's some people like Arnold Schwarzenegger whose version of success was not money per se. It was the status and the fame of being Mr. Olympia. And then once he became Mr. Olympia, it was the status and the fame of being Mr. Olympia 5 more times. And then once he became Mr. Olympia, again, it still wasn't about the money. It was the status and fame that came with being a movie star. And then once he became a movie star, it was the status and the fame that came with being the governor. So it's just one example because I read Total Recall last year, and I'm starting to read it again because it's such a good book. Highly recommend it. But that's one example. There's people like Elon Musk. Their goal, not necessarily to become rich, but it's to go to Mars. It's a goal and it's a vision of success, but it's not everyone's vision of success. Like you watching this, you probably could care less about Mars. You probably don't know much about planets. I'm not saying you don't know anything about like astronomy, but most people, I would imagine, don't care that much about planets. They don't care that much about space travel or anything like that, which is totally fine. I don't really care that much, so it's totally okay. But everyone's got their own version of success. So as I'm kind of sitting there trying to figure out, like, what is that thing that links everyone together? What makes them successful? Is it like time-based? Is it like a personality trait? Is it like random? Is it just luck? Is it them meeting like a certain person? What is it? And I found 3 things. Now, once I kind of realized these things, it like I spot, like once you know something, you see it all the time. It's kind of like when you like, I'll give an example. A couple years ago, I think 2020, 2019 maybe, I forget the year. A couple years ago, I bought a Chevy Camaro, and I wanted a Mustang. For a while, I was like, I'm going to buy a new car. And I didn't buy one. Mainly, I had the cash. I mainly just didn't buy one because it's not an investment. It's a waste of money. It's not something you should do. But I really wanted one. I have other reasons why I bought the car, and I shared in other videos, so I'm not going to share here because I don't want to get like too off track. But I was like, I just want the car. And I remember at one point, one of my buddies, he was like, dude, just buy the car. He's like, you want it? You're young. What's the worst that can happen? You blow some money, you'll get the money back. Just buy the car. So I was like, you know what? Screw it. I think literally like right after he said it, I called up the dealership, and I was like, hey, I'm looking for a Mustang. No. I was looking for a Chevy Camaro because I went on a trip and I used Turo to rent a car. And I wanted to rent a Mustang, and they didn't have a Mustang. So I rented a Chevy Camaro because I'd heard that like Chevy and Mustangs were kind of like rivals. And it looked cool, the Chevy Camaro. So I rented it, and it was so nice. Like the way it rode was super sweet. So I was like, you know what? Do you guys have a Camaro instead? And I remember I really wanted one in red. I wanted like a bright red Chevy Camaro, and I wanted a convertible. And the guy was like, we don't have convertibles, and we don't have red, but we have one Chevy Camaro left. He could have been just like selling and like BSing me just to get me to buy. But he was like, we have one Chevy Camaro left. It's white, and it's got like this claw mark on the front light. And I was like, okay, cool. I was like, that sounds kind of cool. Like, I don't mind white. White was actually my backup color. Like, I was thinking like red. And if they didn't have red, I would have gone for like green, light blue, or white. And so he shows me the white one. He sends like a video of it. He's like walking around it. And I was like, okay, this is a cool car. And I was like, okay, I'll come in Saturday. This is like a Tuesday or Wednesday where I like called him. Thought about it for a bit. consulted my parents because I knew they'd be mad about it. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to come on Saturday and I'll take a look at it. And literally in my mind, I was like, I'm just going to buy it if it's good. If I like it, I'm just going to buy it. I'm not going to talk myself out of it. They made me a good offer. So I did it, bought the car. And before that, I had never seen a Chevy Camaro on the road. Like, it was rare. Every once in a while, I'd see a Chevy Camaro and I'd be like, oh, it's a dope car. Or you see like a Mustang, you're like, oh, it's a dope car. The moment I bought a Chevy Camaro, and I still don't see that many of them. I see a lot of Mustangs. I don't see that many Camaros, but you see more of them. Like, you notice every Chevy Camaro that drives by. You see every Chevy Camaro that's parked. If you could ask my wife, whenever we're anywhere, I'll be walking by. I named my car Sylvia. That's what my Chevy Camaro's name is, Sylvia. Whenever I'm walking around, I'm like, oh, there's Sylvia's cousin. Oh, there's Sylvia's brother. There's Sylvia's sister. There's another Chevy Camaro that looks similar. So once you kind of have something in mind, you notice it more frequently. It's called the reticular activating system. And so, like, once I learned about these three things, these three, like, steps or these three ideas, in everyone that was successful, I was like, I see it. They got it. So, like, I'm not going to waste time anymore. I'm going to get into it because I know you're probably like, dude, just get into it. Like, tell me exactly what those three things are. The three things are that guarantee success, again, scientifically backed, anecdotally backed. I've seen this in everyone that is successful. In no particular order, by the way. Number one is grit. Number two is consistency. And then the third one is iteration. Now, I'm going to explain all three of those things. There's a fourth one, too, that I think this is not something I've seen from science or research. This is something that I just kind of think links the three together. And I'll go over that towards the end. But just to kind of get into all three of these ideas. Again, no particular order. Let's start with grit. What exactly is grit? The way I see it, and I want to kind of make this as simple of a definition as possible, grit is the ability to fail and just keep going. That's really it. Like, grit's the ability to fail and not get discouraged. I remember years ago, there was this podcast I was listening to, and it was called, what was it called? It's called The Passionate Few, with this guy named Omar. I don't watch it much anymore just because YouTube sucks with, like, their algorithm and they don't show it to me. I really got to, like, actually, I'll probably watch it after this or listen to it at least, because it's a very good podcast. And he had, I forget the guy's name, John Paul DeJoria, I think his name is. He's like a billionaire that has like a hair product. Interesting guy, interesting story. And I remember he told a story in the podcast where he was pretty much going door to door, selling, I think at the time, dictionaries. You can only imagine, like, you knock on somebody's door. What are you selling me? I got this dictionary, this big fat book. Like, people don't even read. Imagine trying to sell a dictionary. And he said, like, everyone would slam the door in his face. People were like, I don't want it, leave, get lost. And I remember on the podcast he was saying, it's funny, like, as, you know, now, at the time, like I mentioned, I didn't catch it. But then once I heard those three, you know, once I heard those three things that lead to success, now it kind of, like, pops up in my head. He said success is just, success is failing. I'm paraphrasing what he said. He said success is kind of failing without losing enthusiasm. Like, you fail consistently without losing enthusiasm. That's grit. That's literally what grit is. It's you just failing and not giving up. And so you see this in, like, a lot of successful people. I just mentioned John Paul DeJoria. That's business. Kobe Bryant's another example. This is just me, like, you can literally name anyone that's successful. They have all three of these traits. Kobe Bryant, another example. I read about Kobe Bryant a few years ago. I think in, like, 2018, 2017. I was really big in, like, Kobe Bryant. Binged, like, a lot of the stuff. Read a few books about him. Saw, like, a bunch of podcasts before he passed away, unfortunately. He did a few podcasts. Very rarely he does podcasts, but he did a few with, like, I think Lewis Howes, School of Greatness he did. There's a podcast, Valuetainment, I think he did. Very, like, a handful. And I remember in the book, at least, he told a story about how, and I'm paraphrasing, like, what he said, because I don't want to, like, misrepresent the story. But basically, when he was, like, 14 or 13 or something, I think he got back from, like, Italy, and he did, like, a basketball camp. And at the time, he wasn't like as tall as he eventually became. And he was like the worst basketball player, according to himself. And he said everyone was like way better. They were all better shooters. They had better defense. They had better offense, all that stuff. And he said he got crushed in this basketball camp. And he knew like these kids all had natural talent. And so what his thought process is I can't beat them today. I can't beat them tomorrow. I probably can't even beat them in the next 7 to 8 or 10 years. But if I stick with it and stay diligent, eventually I'll beat them. And we all know who Kobe Bryant is, for the most part. If you're watching this video, you probably speak English. And if you speak English, you probably are at least familiar with like American basketball and American celebrities to a degree. So you probably at least have an idea of who Kobe Bryant is. Yeah, that's grit. It's the ability to fail. And he said like he would just lose a lot of games when he was young. He would lose a lot of games. He would be terrible. He would suck. But he did this over and over and over again, just failing and failing and failing until eventually he stopped failing and he was like he became like one of the greatest basketball players in history, and he will probably go down throughout all of history as one of the best players of all time. So that's an example of grit. Second thing, consistency. Pretty easy enough to understand. Consistency is just doing things over and over and over again without fail. Now, I'll tell you a personal story. When I was younger, my goal was to get in better shape. If you're watching this and you're not like super familiar with my background or like a bit about my past, when I was growing up, I had like really bad health issues. Excuse me. I had really bad health issues. And I had like bad asthma, and I had to take these steroids. My like throat's getting like all stuffed up from the remaining flu that I'm just getting over. So I remember I had like really bad health issues, and I had to take these steroids, and the steroids made me obese. Like it made me like super overweight, and they weren't like when you think of steroids, a lot of people think of what are they called? In bodybuilding, they think of the steroids that pretty much make your muscles bigger. I forget the exact term for them off the top of my head. It's going to bug me because I always think about it. But like the exact word is going to bother me that I can't think of it. But it wasn't the kind of steroids that make your muscles bigger, but it did make me gain a lot of weight. And I wasn't like eating a lot. It just made me gain. It just made me retain like all of the weight. You know, like every calorie I ate, it just made me retain it. So I got really fat when I was really young. And so the goal as I got older was I don't want to be fat. I don't want to be out of shape. I don't want to be not sickly. Sickly's not a good word because it wasn't like I was like on my deathbed like dying every day. But my asthma was really bad, and I didn't want that. So what I did is I just trained a lot, and I would go to the gym like super consistently. And I kind of realized like if you are trying to get in better shape, you can't go to the gym just once. You can't go to the gym a few times. You have to go to the gym a lot. Like every week, you got to go at least like 3 to 5 times. And you got to do this for a very long period of time. I remember, really college was kind of like when I really started to take the gym seriously. So this is about like 10-ish, close to 10 years ago, I would say. Like 8 years ago. No, even more than that. Yeah, definitely over 10 years ago. Is really when I started to take the gym seriously and work out like consistently. And that's when I saw the most results. And then you start to realize like you need to do things consistently to see real progress, see real results. It's like the idea of reps and sets. When you go to the gym, you do a lot of reps, you do a lot of sets to build muscle. That same idea of reps and sets, which is really just consistency, that applies to everything. You want to be better in business, you need reps and sets. You want to be a better speaker, you need reps and sets. And speaking of reps and sets, when I used to like stutter and I used to mumble and I used to talk like really low, like you would never hear me. I'd be talking like this a lot. I would just be mumbling. People like, huh? I can't hear you. That's how people would talk to me a lot. I still do it from time to time because it's like a really bad habit. But I've tried my best to kind of break that habit. And literally what I would do is I'd wake up at like 5 a.m. in the morning. This is like 2018 or 2018, 2017. I would do this a lot. I'd wake up in the morning and I would just pull up my camera like I'm doing right now. and I would spend about 2 to 5 minutes just speaking into the camera at a good volume. So I'd hold the camera back, and I would just say whatever came to mind. There was no script. I wasn't posting it. I wasn't sharing it. I was just kind of like speaking off the dome, saying whatever came to mind. I would do this for 2 to 5 minutes every morning. And what that did is it helped me articulate my words better. It helped me to control my volume better. And over time, I would say it made me a better speaker. I'm not saying I'm a great speaker by any means. I do get off track. I go off tangents like I am now. But me now compared to me back then, dramatic difference. And the reason is because of consistency. It's reps and sets. So that's the second thing. First thing, grit. Second thing, consistency. Third thing is iteration. Now, iteration might be the hardest thing for people to understand because I think iteration is not a word that people use that frequently, so they might not understand the definition of it. To put it simply, iteration is really just making small tweaks in order to get to a goal. Does that make sense? So I'm trying to give a good example off the top of my head. I don't want to use fitness. Like a fitness example comes to mind, but I don't want to use fitness too much, but I might have to if I can't think of another example. And I don't want to use Kobe. Like I can think of like Kobe and like Arnold stuff, but I don't want to use them because I've already used them. I'll put it this way. Like imagine you have a business. A lot of people in this group are young, busy professionals. You have a business or you want to start a business. Actually, perfect example. I was talking to a guy in the DMs like 2 days ago. And he had by the way, if you watch this video, shoot me a DM. Let me know how your progress is going. I want to know so I can help you. He sent me a DM and he was like, hey, I have this video editing agency. I want to get clients. And I was like, okay, cool. How many clients do you have now? And he was like, oh, I don't have any right now. And I was like, cool. Have you ever had clients? And he said, well, yeah, I have clients in the past. How'd you get those clients? I got those clients because I went to events. And when I went to the events, I meet people and eventually they become clients. Okay, cool. Can you go to more events? Like, can you just do the same thing that worked before? No, because I think he said he was like a college student or high school student, so he doesn't have a lot of time. I was like, cool, that happens. That's life. Sometimes you can't get the same favorable circumstances repeatedly, consistently. So you have to adapt. You got to be malleable. And I was like, okay, so this is, again, I'm not a business expert, so this is just an idea that I threw out to him. I was like, what I would try to do is I would find different ways to get leads. And then based on what you try, the thing that was the easiest and the thing that got the most results, do more consistently. Again, consistency. And so we kind of went over like an idea, and I pretty much, just to share it with you, just in case you're in the same boat, I pretty much said to him, what I think I would try to do, and what I've seen work for other people, is I would just post videos on Instagram. Like, he was a video editor, so just post your edited videos and show that you're editing videos. Like, take people like Alex Hormozi, take people like Andrew Tate, take people like whoever, like anyone that's famous, Tony Robbins, anyone that's famous, or Gary Vee, a celebrity, whoever. Take their podcasts or take their videos and you edit it in your own way to show your skills, to demonstrate. And then you post it on your feed and even send it to people and say, like, look, this is what I do. This is cool, right? When they notice it and when they like it, send them some videos of their content for free. Like, send like 3 or 5. Something that's like relatively low effort, so you're not like just grinding all day doing work for free. And see what happens. And again, it's an idea. I'm not saying that would work, but the reason why I share the story is because if it works, cool, it works. So keep doing it. Be consistent with it. If it doesn't work, or if it kind of works a little bit, like if you see people get interested, but you don't see people buy, cool. You know half of that process worked, but the other half might not work. So what do? You make small tweaks. And that's iteration. Hopefully you understand like why I brought that whole story up. That's iteration. It's you making these small tweaks in order to get to a goal, to get to a desired result. That's iteration. And if you're a business owner, you have to do this. If you are a creative, you have to do this. I'm sure because the reason why I bring up creatives is because I've seen people who are creatives and they think that this stuff doesn't apply to them. And it's like, look, I'm really telling you, these 3 things apply to everyone. Do you think Pablo Picasso made one painting and threw it out there and everyone said, oh, this is fantastic. He's the best painter ever. No. He put out a painting, people didn't like it. He tweaked it a little bit if he was, trying to get other people to like it. He tweaked it a little bit. And then some people liked it, but maybe he wanted more people to like it. Make more tweaks. You change your style up a little bit. And eventually more people like it. Everyone does this. Steve Jobs did it with Apple. I'm sure Tony Robbins did it with his speaking. You speak a certain way. People don't like it that much. Tweak it a little bit. Change the way you speak. Now people like it a little bit more. Cool. Can I get more people to like it? Yeah. Change it up a little bit. Video editing. If you're a video editor, and I know this from personal experience because I edit my own videos. If you're editing videos, you put out some type of content, people might not like it too much. It might be a little bit too boring. Cool. Tweak it a little bit. Maybe add a little bit more, cinematic flair. You put subtitles so people are more inclined to read, and you can retain their focus that way. Maybe you do a lot of jump cuts. If you don't know what these things mean, that's totally fine. But the point that I'm trying to make is that no matter what you're doing, you need to iterate. You need to make small tweaks to whatever your process is in order to get a desired result. So those are the three things. And again, this is in no particular order. You just need all three of those things together in order to get that long-term success. You need to have iteration. You need to have grit. You need to have consistency. You need to be able to take failure, grit, and understand that you can still win in the future, but maybe not today. You can win the war, but not necessarily win the battle. You need to have consistency. You need to fight in the war for a long period of time. And real quick, I want to, slight tangent, because I want to bring this up. I've seen some people bring up things like overnight successes. And I've always wondered, are there overnight successes? I have yet to truly find a real overnight success. I've seen people who are young who are successful. A good example of this is two popular people, Logan Paul and Jake Paul. Relatively young. I don't know their ages. I think Logan Paul is probably 30, 29, 28, multimillionaire. Jake Paul, same boat. I think he's 27, 28, 26, something like that. Multimillionaire. He just fought Mike Tyson. Super popular guy. People will see them and go, oh, they got successful fast because they're young. I saw interviews with Jake Paul and Logan Paul, and they talked about how they got successful, and they talked about how their childhood was. These dudes were making videos before anyone decided to make videos. Jake Paul and Logan Paul were making videos when they were 9 or 8. And I think when Jake Paul was 13, he was on Disney Channel. I think around the same time when Logan Paul was 14 or 15, Vine was starting to get big. And he was posting on Vine consistently, editing his videos, trying new things, iteration, being consistent. And he said after about a couple years of nothing happening, consistency and grit, because nothing was happening and he did it for a long period of time. Eventually, when he was 17 or 18, then he got popular on Vine. And then Vine stopped because you got to iterate because things change. You got to adapt, be malleable. Vine died and he sort of pivoted to YouTube and stuff like that. And he did comedy skits. And then from comedy skits, he did podcasting. Now he does wrestling. This is all iteration. This is all consistency. This is all grit. This is all iteration. For everyone, these three things exist. I bring them up because they're young, but you can look at anyone that's relatively young outside. And again, I'm throwing this out here because we got to go back to the original definition of success. It's subjective, but because I know someone who's probably watching this, they're going to think to themselves, well, I know a child actor who is 5 and they're famous from a movie they did when they were 5 and they didn't put that much practice, that much effort in. One, you don't know that. Children actors who are good actors definitely practice, maybe to their detriment. Because if we're talking about success, again, money is not the thing that makes you successful. You can have celebrities, and there are many celebrities, who are child actors, and they get forced to do child acting. And by the time they're in their teens or early adulthood, they have mental health problems. Is that your definition of success? It could be. I don't know. Maybe you prefer money at the cost of your mental health. I personally don't. I don't think that's successful. I wouldn't want that for myself. And I imagine for most people, if you could trade between being eternally depressed and unhappy and making money mean nothing to you while still having all the money in the world, you wouldn't want that. Most people I think want money because they think money will make them happier and allow them to have a better lifestyle. So this is why I brought up success in the beginning. I just want to point that out because I know someone's going to counter that. They're going to be like, oh, well, this child celebrity who is like 5 and they got rich when they were young. It's like, yeah, but they traded a lot to get that. So even though they didn't, as far as you know, go through those 3 steps, they're not successful. And remember, the whole purpose of these 3 steps is there are things that you can do that are scientifically backed, and they are scientifically backed, that will make you successful. If you get successful by chance, I found this to be true consistently. If you get successful by chance or by pure luck without putting in any real effort, the success never lasts. So then if it doesn't last, I'd argue you're not really successful. Like if you became a millionaire today and tomorrow you were super broke and you were in debt 10 million, were you really successful? Maybe for like a minute, sure, but the long-term outcome was worse than the upside. So it's not really like worth mentioning. It's actually like a curse in a way. It's like, imagine someone gives you $1 million right now and you get excited, and the moment they give you $1 million, they pull it back, slap you in the face, and then you find out when you wake up after they slap the hell out of you, you find out that they robbed your bank account. You have no money. Like, you have negative money because they're just taking your identity and buying all kinds of stuff, and now you're like in the negatives. You probably wouldn't want that trade. Let's be real. So that's the way I see it. Now, I mentioned earlier in the video, I'm going to close this soon. I was about to do a giveaway. Again, there's not people on here. I was about to give a giveaway, and no one's going to get the free cash that I was offering. So, maybe next time you'll be on the live to participate. But there's one more thing I mentioned at the beginning of this video. And I said there's like a kind of a 4th secret to success. And this is something that I've come up with. This isn't something that I've seen other people talk about as much. It's going to sound obvious once I say it, but people don't consider it. And so what that thing is you need to have a belief that the thing you want to accomplish can be done. And it's kind of interesting because a lot of people, when you listen to the way they talk about themselves, when you listen to the way they just talk in general, a lot of people lack self-belief. I saw an interview years ago with Kanye. Say what you want about Kanye. Some people think he's like crazy. Some people think he's a genius. I think Kanye is a pretty smart guy. When you listen to like his long form interviews, he says some stuff that's outrageous. I think he does it on purpose to like get people to listen, and he knows like you'll clip it. I think he tries to be weird on purpose to get your attention because that's smart. That's actually really smart. Controversy sells. But he said something that was kind of profound years ago. And he was like, a lot of people are programmed to not believe in themselves. And he was saying one of his greatest skills is that he had absolute belief in himself. If you listen to his interviews, like just even clips, this dude has absolute belief that whatever he touches is gold. Now, you can argue that obviously you can't be good, you can't be amazing at everything at the exact same time. You can argue that. But how would you know if you're not willing to try? And I think that's kind of what Kanye suggests. Like, you could be great at everything, but because you think you won't be great, you won't even try. So you'll never discover if you were, if you're great or not. There's another quote, I think by Aristotle, like ancient Greek philosopher. Highly recommend you read ancient Greek philosophy. A lot of the lessons, a lot of good life lessons will be found in ancient Greek philosophy in general. But ancient Greek philosophers, I think, really nailed a lot of stuff that I think even in the modern era, people still are like questioning a lot. And to me, it's like super obvious because I've heard people I've heard Aristotle and Plato talk about it, and they reference Socrates. But it's just fascinating that people back then kind of came up with these concepts that people nowadays still can't seem to grasp or discover, even though they've been discovered. But they've put it in books that are complicated, and people just aren't willing to go through that step to read things that are complicated. I think it was Aristotle, though. It could have been Plato. Doesn't matter. They said something along the lines of, if you believe it to be true, it is so. Or if you think something like, I'm paraphrasing, if you think you can do something, it's true. And if you think you can't do something, it's also true. It sounds super like confusing, and it sounds very like vague and just like, what does that even mean? I think the point they're trying to make is like, if you believe you can be great, you'll put forth the effort to be great because it's a belief that you have. And humans like to act in accordance to our beliefs. So if you believe you're great, you'll be great. You'll be great not because you're great today, but because you're kind of putting yourself on the path towards greatness. If you don't believe that you're great, you're also true because you may have had the potential to be great, but the problem is that you talked yourself out of it. So you don't try. And because you don't try, you can't get it. It's like a dude who wants to be like a bodybuilder, or it's like a dude who has the genetics to be a great bodybuilder. And I know a lot of people who have genetics to be like really in like insane shape, but they have so little faith in themselves and they put forth so little effort, they don't go to the gym. And it's like, well, if you think you're weak, then yeah, you're going to be weak because you don't go to the gym. But if you think you're strong, even if you were weak, you're going to get stronger because you go to the gym. Does that make sense? Like, hopefully that makes sense. One more thing to hopefully illustrate this point. Actually, real quick, I wanted to show you this because to talk about this idea of belief, I got these posters made because I thought they were dope. So this is me and the wife, Queen and King. This outfit's dope. I kind of want this outfit in real life. But the reason why I bought those is because I'm a massive believer in that fourth step that you got to believe things to be true in order for them to happen. If you see yourself as a king, you will act like a king. And if you start acting like a king, you will get the results of a king. You'll come close, if nothing else. There's if you ever watched this movie called The Wolf of Wall Street, there's a guy named Jordan Belfort. In the movie, he swindles a bunch of people, but there's a lot of good podcasts and interviews with him. And he said that before he was rich, he always saw himself as rich. So he had no problem negotiating with rich people because he saw himself on the exact same level as they were. If a lot of people, I think, when they think about themselves, they think to themselves, I'm not on this person's level, therefore I can't achieve what this person has achieved. You hear this all the time in like politics. There's the rich versus the poor. If you're anti-rich, you're putting yourself in the poor category. So your belief is that you're poor. So if your belief is that you're poor, you're going to stay poor because you believe yourself to be poor, and humans act in accordance to their beliefs. So I don't want to harp on that point too long. I just want to make that, I just want to provide a few examples. But yeah, that's it. So that's kind of the overall takeaway from this video that I'm going to give you. Those 3 steps: grit, consistency, iteration, the 3 things you need to be successful. And then the final thing that I think is necessary for all those things to come together is self-belief. You got to have a belief in yourself. You got to believe that what you want can become a reality, even if it sounds delusional. Actually, I mentioned this isn't backed by science, but it kind of is, because I have read books saying that a lot of people that have achieved massive success, they do have a degree of delusion about their circumstance. You can't believe that you can take people to Mars unless you have a little bit of delusion, especially when that thing has not been done yet. You can't believe that you can be a dude from Austria, from a poor background, come to America when the price to come to America was pretty much not possible. Like, I think people take for granted like travel. Back then, I'm talking about Arnold Schwarzenegger. Back then, the idea of traveling from Austria, from being as a poor like farmer, was unrealistic. It wasn't possible. And if you read Total Recall, he kind of got lucky a little bit with coming to America. It was a little bit of luck after a lot of work. It was like right place, right time, but he did a lot to put himself in that right place. So it's unrealistic. It's pretty much impossible. But he believed he could do it. He was like, I'm going to go to America. I belong in America. He got to America. I believe I can be 6-time Mr. Olympia. He became 6-time Mr. Olympia. And then when he couldn't, I love Arnold so much because I feel like he checks like all the boxes of life in like every way. Becomes Mr. Olympia. He's like, you know what? I can be a world-class movie star. Becomes a world-class movie star. He sits there and says, you know what? I need people to take me more seriously. I want to get into politics because I think I can change things. Becomes 2 times elected governor. You can only do 2 terms, to my knowledge, which is why he only did 2 terms. He wanted to run for president. In the book Total Recall, he said he wanted to run for president, but you can't because you have to be born in the United States to run for president. Otherwise, he would have run for president. And governor's like the next highest power next to president. Also, for the record, side tangent, because I love Arnold. California has like the highest GDP, I think, in like the country, at least at the time. And to my knowledge, the GDP of California is I think it's like one of the top economies of the world. Like California's GDP is higher than most countries on the planet. So essentially, you're a dude from a poor background in Austria. You come to America. You not only become a champion 6 times in a competition that no one believed you could ever compete in, you beat them all, become a movie star, despite movie stars not looking like you at all. Because at the time, the thin look was in, the thin, somewhat short. Arnold was obviously huge. Had a Austrian German accent, not normal. Again, this is like back in the past. Nowadays, people who have accents is more common. Back then, if you have an accent, it's like there's no way you're going to be in a movie. People cannot understand you. People aren't trying to understand you. Crazy goal, but he did it because he believed he could. So I want to end with that. Hopefully you got a lot out of this video. I didn't give away any money, so I'm a bit upset. I was going to give away lots of cash, but none of you guys joined. So next time when I do these lives, please hop on. Please have questions. I'm trying to help you guys improve a lot. I'm trying to get you guys to get to whatever goal you're trying to achieve. So bring questions next time. I'm going to be doing a giveaway again in the very near future, probably the next maybe week or two. So if you made it to this far in the video, be on the lookout for the next live. A few more things that I want to talk about real quick. In the very near future, I'm going to drop it in the group. I'm doing sort of this 7-day. It's kind of like a course. It's a 7-day course that'll help you go from wherever you are currently, whether it's like absolutely scratch, like you have no goals, no ambition, no motivation, you're just ghosting through life. Doesn't matter. It'll take you from 0 to 100 in 7 days. That is the purpose of this overall course. It's going to be free for you guys. It's 100% free for you guys because you guys are in the group. And like I mentioned, I'm not trying to get you guys to pay anything. I'm not charging anything. I'm not selling you anything. Well, technically I am. I'm selling you on yourself, trying to get you to get to the best possible step. But that'll be in the group at some point. I'm working on it now. I'm working on the final touches. Hopefully in the next month it'll be ready. Hopefully sooner than that. But in the next month, I hope it should be ready. So once that drops, you guys will have access to it for free. It'll be in the group chat. You have a link to it. If I put up a paywall or something, I'll give you the information so you can bypass it. Don't worry about it. But yeah, so that'll be it. Hope you, if you're watching this, it's recording, got a lot out of this. Leave me your comments. Let me know what you think about it. Let me know what your biggest takeaway is. And I hope to see you in the next video. Peace out. Bye.